Thank Hashem that we're able to learn. This is Chesed learning Hashem based in English immediately. We're going to start Tzadik Aleph, right? And it's about 6 lines from the top. Ben Yoshev Shalzeh, Yoshev Shalzeh, Yorshin Ksuba Sachulu. The inheritors of the 2 husbands don't inherit her ksuba. Now, talking about the woman whose husband went on a trip, and we were told that he passed away, so she got remarried. So we said that she doesn't get a ksuba because she should have investigated better. Well, now we say the inheritors don't get the ksuba either. The Gemara asks, ksuba ma'avidite, if she doesn't have a ksuba, so how do the inheritors get a ksuba that she doesn't have? Inheritors can only get it from her. If she doesn't have it, so what's this discussion? So Amar of Papa ksuba spinning different. Papa says we're dealing with ksuba spinning different. This is if a man there was a concern that a man would not want to give a considerable dowry for his daughter. Why? Because let's say the son-in-law would marry a second wife and then pass away. The inheritors would inherit everything equally. And that means that this big dowry that he had given, which he would like to go to his grandchildren, are going to go to his grandchildren's step, half siblings. And he doesn't want that. But so in order to encourage him to give a proper dowry, we said that if the husband passes away, first the ksuba is going to go to those inheritors, the specific ones. Then others, the dowry that she brought in, which that's like part of the ksuba that he's supposed to give her back. That's first going to go to the direct descendants of the wife. We're talking about over here, where the first wife passed away while he was alive. The second, then he dies. Then the second wife passed away. So the inheritors of the second wife will for sure get the ksuba because the mother received the ksuba when the husband passed away, and then they inherited from the mother when the mother passes away. But the inheritors of the first wife, this fellow's grandchildren, they never got a ksuba. That ksuba is just going to be divided equally. So, because it never went to the mother. So, ksuba spinning different is this, that the male inheritors will get the ksuba first. First, they extract from the estate the dowry and the ksuba, and then everything else gets divided equally. It's one of the conditions that was written in this ksuba. Well, what does that have to do with us? We're saying that this woman that loses her ksuba, but somehow the dowry that what she brought into the marriage should at least go back to those children, and we say that they don't. It doesn't go in. The Gemara says pshita. That's obvious. She doesn't have the ksuba. She doesn't have the conditions that come along with it. The Gemara says no. Mao the tema. It's not so simple, because l'dida the avda isura kansur rabbanan, l'zara like kansur rabbanan kamash malan. That no. We say that who did the sin here? It was the wife. What sin did she do? She didn't investigate properly before she got remarried. In other words, a witness showed up and said that her husband passed away. And she said, okay, that's a good heter for me. And she right away gets married. She didn't analyze and check and to see, is it accurate or not? So, and because of that, she's being punished. So maybe we should only punish her, but the children didn't do anything wrong. They should still inherit the dowry that came into the marriage. Is it kamash malan that it's not so? The children also don't inherit. The Gemara's Ma'al Tema is quite strong, though. I mean, the Havamina is quite logical.
In halacha, would this be a valid prenuptial agreement? Second one, priesthood?
Yes, that's what it seems. This is yeah. I don't think we have a real issue with prenuptial agreements. I'm just certain ones. I'm saying monetary things. I think they can. Yeah, that's something else. That has to do with the marriage, not with the Tanai ben Nisuin. Sounds like, is she married? Is she not married? If you do this, then you'll be married. If you do, that's a Tanai in the is she married? That's what it sounds like. Okay. So we're holding Achav Shel Zev, Achav Shel Zeh, Cholz Malei Miyab, 91A. So the brother of the first husband and the brother of the second husband, they only do chalitza, but they don't do ibam. Now, again, the first husband was actually the husband. The second husband was just a total mistake because the first husband was still alive. He was just on a trip. He lost his cell phone. Why didn't you call? If you're really alive. I didn't have what's it called? I didn't have connection somehow. It was out of.
It's the phone that works.
Yeah.
Not on a cell phone that they use between continents. On a
yeah.
ship. This is an emergency cell phone. It works on its own. Backup.
So the Gemara explains what's happening here. It says, Achiv shel Rish. Well, what happened is the brother passed away. The husband passed away. So now, yeah, both of them passed away, and she would like to get remarried, but the problem is that she didn't have children from either one, so she has to do yibam. Now, really, only the first one is her husband. So really, the yibam of the first one. The only thing is, she wasn't allowed to live with her husband because she had an affair with someone else, who she thought was her second husband. And she didn't do her proper investigation, so we consider her guilty in that. Well, now it comes to Yibam, she can't do Yibam either, because she couldn't live with the husband. She doesn't live with the husband's brother, right? She doesn't do Yibam midirabanan. That's a knas that they put on her because she didn't investigate. However, Achiv shel sheni chalitz midirabanan. The brother of the second husband, that's chalitza is only midirabanan. She obviously doesn't do yibam.
Don't we consider it as rape though? She didn't know.
Yeah. Now, if there were two witnesses, then we consider it like rape. If there was one witness, then we expect her to do a little bit more investigation. And we had the rule isha daiko mitzvah. She's supposed to investigate
for sure.
Yeah, we'll see soon in a few minutes. We'll get into that soon. All right.
That's all right. All right.
Yeah. Is this all right? Okay. So, it's just a little odd over here. She has there's a man that she cannot marry. It's her second husband. She cannot marry him. Why can't she marry him? Because he's considered the bayal. And like in the case of a saita, the woman has an affair, so she can't marry. She's forbidden to her husband. She's also forbidden to the man that she had the affair with. So what happens here with this guy? He died already. The second guy. So what happens with his brother? Can she marry his brother? Brother of the first one would have been a yibam case, but the rabbi said that she can't do yibam, so she does chalitza. The second one, we say she has to do chalitza, midrabanan. But can she marry him? Now, I mean, she really has no relationship with him. She was never married to the brother either. Why is she doing chalitza? Well, so it shouldn't look like she's walking out of something with, but can she actually marry him?
Who's first, her first, husband? The second.
No, I'm talking about the second husband who was not a real husband.
Right.
His brother.
Could do chalitza, but she can't marry the guy himself.
Yeah, I'm suggesting the Gemara is saying that she can't do Yibam, but she does chalitza midirabanan. And she doesn't do Yibam, loy midiraisa, loy midirabanan. Loy miyam, loy midiraisa. I'm asking why not? I know it's not Yibam, but it sounds like she can't marry him either. I'm wondering if that's the full law. She has nothing to do with him. He doesn't.
Yeah.
I never heard in all of these halachas that a woman that has an affair cannot marry the brother of that person. Right?
With whom she had.
With whom she had.
It's not,
No, but
because
here it may be that it's the way we're reading it. I don't know. There's different ways of reading this. Okay, let's see. Rabbi Yossi Meksubasa al Nichsei Baila. Rabbi Yossi, his view is that there is a ksuba here. Now, there's going to be two more opinions in the Mishnah. There was the opinion of Rabbi Lazar that says also if she has her income goes to the husband. So Rabbi Lazar has a lenient view over here that we don't separate them to the extent that the husband can't take the income. The first husband we're talking about. You know, she can go back to the first husband. They're not allowed to be together, but at least she can. While they're together, while they're still married, he would take her income. And Reb Shimon adds a view even more lenient, that if the first husband dies, she actually does yibam on the brother. Not which sounds like she's really permitted to the husband. She's really permitted to the husband if she can do yibam on the brother. Okay. Now we have three opinions. We have the opinion of Rabbi Yossi that says that she gets a ksuba. We have the opinion of Rabbi Lazar that says that the income goes to the husband. You know, the ksuba is when they get divorced, and Rabbi Lazar is while they're married. And then there's the view of Reb Shimon when the husband dies that she can do yibam. Okay, so Amar Rav Huna comes in and he says something interesting. He said you had three opinions here. Basrai moidul kamai. The later ones agree to the earlier ones. Kamai le moidul basrai. The earlier ones don't agree to the later ones. So you have to set it up like this. Rabbi Yossi is on the top. Rabbi Lazar is in the middle, and Reb Shimon is on the bottom. Okay, so we have the earlier views in the Mishnah. It's not earlier in time; they're all contemporaries. Is Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Lazar, and Reb Shimon. Now, I wish it went Rabbi Lazar first, then I could have said Aleph Yud Shin, but it doesn't. It didn't set it up for me like that. Okay. So Reb Huna says that Reb Yossi would not agree to anyone, but Reb Shimon agrees to the other three. Let's take a look. Reb Shimon Maidleil Rabbi Lazar. We start from the bottom. Reb Shimon agrees to Rabbi Lazar. Dema biya di ikari surah loikanis. You know, she's basically a saita. This woman. You know, she had an affair with that concept of a say. It's not like she was warned or something, but she's forbidden to have relations. And now Reb Shimon is saying, well, she can still have relations with the brother-in-law, which means yibam. If the main prohibition was just relaxed, we allowed her to have relations with the brother-in-law, which is yibam, which that was the main prohibition, what she was forbidden to the husband. So for sure, while the husband's alive, the husband can take her just the income, what she finds.
If her second husband passed away, she would go to her first husband, you know. I mean, I don't know. In a perfect world. No,
It's a prohibition, though. Really.
Oh, is that right?
Well, there's two problems. If she's married to the second husband, you're not allowed to go back to the first husband. Once you marry a second, you can't go back to the first. And if she's not married, then this is someone that she had an affair with. She actually becomes prohibited to her first husband, because
If she was, sorry, say that one more time.
if she's married to the second husband,
Mhm.
then you can't go back to the first
Right,
husband.
yeah.
And if she's not married to the second husband, then she still can't go back to the first husband, because it's like she had
They
an
had
affair.
relations?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now, that was Reb Shimon's view. So that's why he agrees to Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon. Rabbi Lazar doesn't agree to Reb Shimon because obviously they didn't make a fine that the husband can't get her income. However, but to have relations. Well, now we're talking about relations with the Yavam, but that is a prohibition, which was the basic logic that we started this. But both Rabbi Lazar and Reb Shimon would agree to Rabbi Yossi. Why? Hanu the Yasva to say like Hanes, while she's married, they didn't make a knas. Talking about Rabbi Lazar's view. While she's married, the income goes to the husband. Yasva means sitting, right? To say means under him. Yeah.
The sages do not
They
penalize.
didn't make a knas, a fine. They didn't penalize her.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it means him in this case. But ksuba de la mishkala mefakai. For sure, she can take the ksuba because she's already getting out of the marriage. Why should they make a big deal about that? Just let her get out. Let her get out of the marriage. Now, we're ignoring another piece of factor here in this logic. The other factor was that the taking away of the ksuba would help her get out of the marriage because the husband would get rid of her faster. We're ignoring that. We're saying that there was a fine that we put on her, and that fine, why should we put it on her? She's getting out of the marriage. This is a good thing. Let her take the ksuba. Right? Okay. Avalhani the answer to say kanis. Did I just jump over here? Yeah, I jumped. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi doesn't agree to them because again, he's the first opinion. He doesn't agree to the later opinions. He says ksuba dala mishkala meifakud leikanis. The ksuba, which is Rabbi Yossi's view that she takes the ksuba, that she's on her way out. So just give her the ksuba. Avalhani the asfet to say kanis, but to keep the marriage going, to give her mitziyasa, to give her the give the income to the husband, that's problematic. While she's married, this is a prohibited marriage. So they're not going to allow her to let that function normally. That was the view of Rav Huna. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan is a little bit older than Rav Huna, but he lives in Israel. Rav Huna was a student of Rav in Bavel. Rabbi Yochanan says it works exactly the opposite. Kamai maidala basrei, basrei le maidala kamai. Rabbi Yossi agrees to Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Shimon. Remember, the way we set this up was Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon. He says that the Rabbi Yossi would agree, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yossi would agree to Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Shimon does not agree to Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yossi. And Rabbi Lazar would not agree with Rabbi Yossi, but he would agree to Rabbi Shimon, right? So it works like this. Rabbi Yossi might later Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Yossi agrees to Rabbi Lazar ksuba mididei ledida leikanis. Koshkin mitziyasa ma'asiyada the midida ledidei. It's interesting logic. Who's the guilty party here? The wife. The husband was not really was not deceased, and she just took one witness testimony without investigation, and she got remarried. So Rabbi Yossi says she gets a ksuba. Now, that's a big chiddush. If Rabbi Yossi agrees that she gets a ksuba, even though she's the guilty party, she's walking out with money, then for sure the husband can take her income. What do we want her to keep her income? What are we trying to do? How are we giving her a fine by she keeps her income? What's going to him? Let's give it to him. Let her lose out on her income. She's the guilty party. Rabbi Elazar doesn't agree to that because Mitziyosam I see there who the midida like kanes, they didn't put a fine on her to take her income and give it to the husband. That's one thing. Aval ksuba the midida, but that the husband should give her a ksuba, that they put a fine on. That kanes. So he doesn't agree to Rabbi Yossi. But Tavayim Maidleila Reb Shimon, they'll agree to Reb Shimon because this is an easy one. Mahani de Mechayim like Kansi. The Mechayim like Kansi. Bia de Lachamisa like Kolshkein. If they agree that while the husband's alive, there's no knas. So after the husband passes away, for sure there's no knas. Talking about Yibam. If while she was alive, she got a ksuba and the income goes to the husband like a regular marriage. So then after he passed away, they can do yibam.
Does the word house refer to a monetary loss?
No.
Refer to her loss.
Yeah. Yeah. Reb Shimon lahu. Bio de lachar misa like kanas. Avahani de mechaim kanas. Reb Shimon doesn't say that. Reb Shimon says that only lachar misa, only after the husband passed away, that's when we don't do a knas. But while the husband's alive, there is a knas. And so Reb Shimon won't agree to Reb Elazar and Reb Yossi that she gets the ksuba and that the income goes to the husband. Okay, now we enter into the next sugya. It says Nisis Shlei B'Shus Chulam. If she got married without permission, that's a little bit surprising. It's not what it looks like it means.
Permission of the court.
Without permission of the court actually means that the husband went on a trip and doesn't return.
Right.
The court giving her permission to remarry means that one witness showed up and gave her permission to remarry. Marriage without permission means that two witnesses showed up and she doesn't need the court's permission because she knows that he's dead because two witnesses came. So the expression is a funny expression, but it means that she has more clarity here that he's dead.
That's interesting. You could have the court really decide for you on this.
Right.
Case.
Right.
If
Right. What is the rule here? The rule is that she's allowed to, if that's the case, that two witnesses came, then she's considered a total, like accident, total oines. She's free from guilt, and she can go back to her first husband.
I mean, the two witnesses.
It's actually Reb Shimon's statement. Yeah, this is Reb Shimon's statement in the Mishnah. Reb Shimon was continuing that first of all she can do yibam, and then if she got married with two witnesses, she can go back to the first husband. Okay. Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav. Last Gemara we also had Rav Huna. Here we have Rav Huna Amar Rav. He says, Hachi Helchasa. We're going to paskin like this. This is the halacha. Two witnesses came, she can go back to the first husband. Amalei Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says, Ganva Genuvi Lamalach. Why do you have to be so sneaky? The Ganva means a thief, like a thief that comes in at night. You have to do this in a sneaky way. Isvir alach Reb Shimon. Halacha Reb Shimon. Are you trying to tell us that the halacha is like Reb Shimon? So say so. Rav Nachman is also a student of Rav, so he's a friend of Rav Huna. So he's talking to Rav Huna like this. Rav Huna is saying it in the name of Rav, but he's talking to Rav Huna. The Shmaitach Reb Shimon Akazla. You're saying that you're passing like Reb Shimon. Maybe you'll say, if you would say that the halacha is like Reb Shimon, then that would come out that the halacha is like Reb Shimon even in his first opinion. His first opinion was that if one witness showed up, and then the husband passed away after she's remarried. One witness showed up. The husband returned. First she remarries, then the husband returns, and then he passes away.
First husband.
The first husband,
Passes away.
For real.
the first husband,
No, pass away.
and then for real passes away. Yeah.
Show us.
So
Contract.
so Reb Shimon says she does Yibam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Reb Shimon holds that she does Yibam. So if Rav Huna would have said Allah is like Reb Shimon, we would have thought that even with one witness, she would still be doing Yibam, and he doesn't hold like that. So that's why he didn't say that Allah is like Rav Huna. It isn't. Rav Huna doesn't say that Allah is like Reb Shimon. He just says that this is the halacha in this case over here. And when two witnesses show up, that the first husband passed away, that she can then return to the first husband, even though he didn't pass away. Right? So if that's the case, so just say the halach like Reb Shimon in the second case, not the first case. If you didn't want the halacha to be like
two witnesses said that her first husband did not pass away, then it's not really a marriage. She didn't commit anything.
Yeah. So here we're saying two witnesses come and say that the husband passed away.
Mhm.
Based on that, she remarried. And now she finds out the husband walks in, or maybe two witnesses show up that say that he's still alive, or the husband just walks in.
She married the second one.
She married the second one,
I don't know. That's what we learned a couple days ago.
and then she's allowed to go back to the first husband because she was considered like raped.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
I didn't
So
think that the second marriage was not a marriage.
right, the second marriage is not a marriage.
Right.
So, but she's allowed to go back to the first husband. We don't hold her guilty for that,
Okay. That's fine.
at least according to Reb Shimon. So,
Oh.
Rav Nachman Rav Huna accepted this view in the name of Rav. Rav Nachman saying, why don't you say that you're passing like Reb Shimon? So the Gemara says kasha. That's a question. Amar Rav Sheshis. Rav Sheshis says, Amina, I say, Kinayim v'shachav Rav Amar la Shmaita. Rav must have been sleeping when he said this. It can't be. Rav Sheshis is the one that always says this about Rav. Whenever he has a comment about a statement of Rav, he says, Rav must have been tired.
Sounds like a Trump type thing. That's why he wrote him off. I mean, it's not speaking very nice about his colleague.
Well, it's actually his teacher's teacher, I think.
His teacher's teacher.
Even more
He's
so.
an old man, he's sleeping.
Even more so.
Sheshis is a student of Rav Huna, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. So, halacha mechlal de pligi. If you say that this is the halacha, that means obviously that there must be a machlekes here, and you're saying that this is the way we're going to paskin. But Rav Sheshis is saying actually no one argues with this, so you don't have to say this is the halacha. Why does no one argue with this? He gives logic. My havleila mevad. What do you want from the woman? Two witnesses came that said her husband died.
Right. What do you want?
What else do you want? You can't hold her liable. Like, what do you want her to do? Wait forever?
Yeah, isn't there also a time frame too? Like I know with children, like if you wait after 10 years or something.
Oh, yeah, but over here there really is no time frame. It can show up.
Wow.
50 years later, yeah, your husband.
Would she recognize him? I mean, I don't know. That's very.
Usually two witnesses conclusively establish a fact.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
it's
I
over.
suppose that's
Right.
true.
Two witnesses say the same thing. So that turns out they were wrong.
Right.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Oh.
how would two witnesses even be witnesses?
No, they saw the ship blow up.
Oh.
He was on the ship, but he escaped. Somehow,
Yeah.
and he was in
Got
Argentina
swallowed
for
by
20
a
years.
whale.
No, he was on a raft, a little.
Right.
He got to Argentina and he lived there for many years. He had a family. He remarried. That's okay, I guess. He comes back 50 years later and says,
Right. Survived. I have this every once in a while. They have these things. I mean, there was this one, this plane that got lost.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't know where it was. They went searching. They couldn't find. You know, the people, they did survive. They didn't survive. You know, but these things happen. In the towers, that was the big Shiloh, all the big Shiloh in the Twin Towers. What happened? I mean, there were some survivors. You know, in staircases, there was like certain things like you had to find out all of these.
It was the same thing down in Champlain Towers.
In Shem,
There
right.
some were killed, but no DNA evidence was uncovered.
right?
That was established circumstantially. I know when the Twin Towers collapsed, the base in New York got very involved in that investigation.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what happened. He was involved in one of them.
Okay. So, well, what do we want from her? This is Rav Shesha's logic. My Havaleila Mevan.
From the woman, poor woman.
Yeah, Miana Sansa. She said a total Inus. How do you translate Inus? Is yeah, a victim of unavoidable circumstance. Okay, there's got to be one word.
Just victim.
Okay. Void. Another problem is Rav Sheshes doesn't think that anyone argues with this. We have a Brisa Tanya. If a woman gets married to a close relative, which is so close that it can't be a marriage, it's you know, a father, a brother, something like that. So you don't need a get. However, if there was an Eishes Ish, a married woman, that a Bezdin allowed her to get remarried based on one witness testimony, she does require a get, even though she's a married woman. That's also all right. What do you mean? A married woman gets married to another man and she needs a get? Yeah. In this case, yeah, there's an exception.
How does she get a get from this first?
She gets a get from the second husband.
Oh, sorry.
The first husband just shows up.
Okay.
Right.
She still can't go back to the first.
Well, yeah, that's right. She can't go back to the first one. But however, Alpi Bezdin hu de Gita. That's only Alpi Bezdin. But Alpi Edom loy by Gita. If she gets married because witnesses come, then that's not even considered a marriage that would require her again. It's absolutely nothing. Nothing. Now, why? Because she's a total Inus. We're seeing that Mani, who is this opinion? Ilema Reb Shimon. If you want to say that this is Reb Shimon's view, which that would fit nicely. Alpi Bezdin mi by get. The only problem is if she gets married with one witness, does she require a get? We think that Reb Shimon holds. Remember, Reb Shimon's opinion was that with one witness saying that the husband passed away, she can do yibam. That meant that the second marriage was really nothing. But ignore that fact right now. But we have another brisa that says Vatanya Reb Shimon I'm also bestin by Rasan. If the bestin paskin, that means there was one witness. That's the code word here for one witness. We talk about bestin paskining. For two witnesses, we say bestin. It wasn't bestin's psak. So also bestin by Rasan kazadain ish isha. It's as if it was done intentionally. And she becomes forbidden to her first husband. Al Piedim, if there were witnesses there, in other words, we didn't need the psak from the Bezdin, then it was done unintentionally. Well, whatever the case is, get. Both of them sound like it was just znus. It was just like an affair. It wasn't a marriage, and she doesn't need a get from the second husband. So Reb Shimon, this statement that chutz mi eishes al pi bezdin that requires a get, that can't be Reb Shimon, because Reb Shimon doesn't require a get. Well, what's our point? Elalav Rabbanani. It must have been the Rabbanan. Now here's where Reb Sheshes brings out his point. He says, you see what's going on? The Rabbanan say that if there are two witnesses, she doesn't need a get from the second husband, which means that she can go back to the first husband. We considered it an inus. We're making this
So the two
match up.
witnesses did verified that
The husband passed away. First
Therefore,
husband.
Wouldn't it be a marriage to the second one in that case?
The only problem is the husband was still alive.
Okay, but that's after.
So,
what do you want to do
no,
if she
what
doesn't
we
want
wanted to say is that because she's not required to get a get from the second husband, that means that the second husband was absolutely nothing. We considered it an einus, a rape, and she's allowed to go back to the first husband. The requirement of a get is sort of like a punishment as well. So if there's no get, then we're saying she can go back to the first husband.
Crime.
There's no crime.
Right.
There's no crime. Now, what Rav Shesha says is that you see, even the Rabbanan hold that there's no crime, so that there's no. She can go back to the first husband.
That's why I'm getting confused because there's two different opinions.
There's two opinions here, but Rav Shesha is trying to say that everyone agrees. In the case where there's two witnesses, everyone agrees.
But you said it's like rape, right? That's the idea.
Yeah.
But the ban, when rape, somebody's guilty of something, usually the guy, let's say.
Yeah.
But in this case.
We're not holding the guy guilty over here.
Two witnesses can rule either way.
Because it was only the woman that should have done the investigation.
She failed to, but she
She
gets off
failed
without
to.
any
But
investigation.
over here, because there were two witnesses, we don't require any more investigation. What else is she supposed to do?
Nothing.
If there was one witness, so she should have looked for another witness.
Right.
But after two witnesses, then that's accepted.
So she's off the hook, and the second husband, quote, husband is off the hook. If nothing happens,
She goes back to the first husband. Right?
Doesn't need to get.
Wasn't even a
No.
marriage, it was supposed
That's what we're saying here. And the problem is that Rav said that the halacha, or Rav Huna said that this is the halacha. The problem is, why does he have to say this is the halacha if no one argues?
What's the answer?
L'yolam Reb Shimon.
Okay.
It's not so.
Oh.
Really, the Rabbanan did not say this. This is really Reb Shimon's view. Well,
Oh.
then why did we say that Reb Shimon says that there's no requirement for a get? Reb Shimon Aimer asu bezdin berasan kekavanas ish beisha ubai get. Reb Shimon never said that there's no get if there was a one witness. He said no. It was. We view it as if it was an intent for marriage, and there is a requirement for a get. But I'll be aidim. But if it was because of witnesses that she married the second one, shalei bekavanas ish beisha. We don't view it as an intent for marriage. We view it just as nus. And v'lei by get, and she doesn't require a get. Okay, so we really have no support. We have nothing that's to rely on to say that this is the view of the Rabbanan. This could be the Rabbanan really argue, and this could fit with Reb Shimon. Rav Ashi Amalin Nisur Ketani. Rav Ashi just says, this statement that you're telling me, who is it? Is it Reb Shimon or is it the Rabbanan? It doesn't matter. It's not talking about a get. It's talking about Bachi Kamar. Also Bezdin Berasan Kazad Nishbisha Umitzra Al Baila. If it was one witness, she becomes forbidden to her husband, but she needs a get. Al Piedim. If there were two witnesses, Kashigas is Bisha V'lei Mitzra Al Baila, and she's not forbidden to her husband. But this doesn't tell me anything about the get. Does she need a get? Does she not need a get? Okay. So what does that help? That it's again Reb Shimon. Ravina Amar Linyan Carbon Ktani. Ravina says it's actually talking about a carbon. Also Bezdin by Rasan. Let's say it was a psak from Bezdin. What does that mean? We said before, that means that one witness showed up that said that the first husband passed away. So she marries the second one. Then the first husband surfaces. Does she need to bring a carbon for this unintentional sin? Well, if it's a psak from Bezdin, then she doesn't need a carbon because it's Bezdin's fault. So, asu Bezdin by Rasan, it says if it's intentional, and you don't bring a carbon for intentional either. So she doesn't bring a carbon. Al Piedim no, but if it was because of witnesses, then the Bezdin wasn't really involved here. It was just witnesses. Kishigas Ishbisha Masi carbon. It's like a mistake. And she does bring a carbon.
In the first instance,
Bezdin would have to bring a carbon if it would have been the community that sinned, but because it's individual, Yeah, so it leaves with no carbon, not for the individual and not for the Bezdin. Iba Yisema, another pshat here is Ha Kamaisa Rabbananhi, Bitar Tachi. Let's read it like this. Miyeshasish, Vishanis is LP best. See, we had in the above. It's working like this. What did we say? We said all arayas shabbatayra, any marriage that's a very close relation, that's a close relative or a arayas, and those people that it's forbidden to marry, if the marriage was done, you do not need a get. It's so not a marriage that you don't even need a get. Well, then it goes on. Chutz, with the exception of me'eshasis, a married woman, shenisas alpi bezdin, that got married through the court. That means because of one witness. We said, oh, she does need a get. What about if she got married because of two witnesses? Then she doesn't need a get. We said no. Now we're saying no. Who is this that's saying this? Iba Yisema. We're going to read it that except for an Ashes Ish that gets married to someone, and Vishanis is Alpi Bezdin, and the woman that gets married because of Bezdin, which is an Ashes Ish because of one witness. So basically we're saying two witnesses and one witness both require a get.
Well, the one witness
So then
is
it's-
accompanied by the basis.
Yeah, one witness would be the Bezdin. But because we're adding in Vishanis is Alpi Bezdin, that means what was the case of Ashes Ish? That means two witnesses. They both require a get. That means that the Rabbanan actually hold different than Reb Shimon. And therefore Rav would be correct. When Rav said the halacha is like Reb Shimon, that means that not like the Rabbanan, because the Rabbanan would hold that she's probably not allowed to go back, that she can't go back to the first husband, as we see that she needs a get from the second husband. Masav Ula. Ula has a question on Rav Sheshas. Mi amrinan my havalei mevad. Do we actually say that what do you want from her? What do you expect from her? What do you expect it to do? Well, V'hatanan, we have a problem with this. What do they call this? Due diligence. Do we say that the due diligence exempts her from everything? She did what she was supposed to. After that, she's not required anymore. So, Kasav l'shem malchus sheina higenes. Let's say she gets a get from her husband. A different story. And in the get, they write the years of they write the date. And they write the date not according to creation, but they write the date according to the king of whatever. Anyway, let's say they wrote to the king of Rome. They weren't living in Rome, but they wrote to the king of Rome. Oh, l'shem malchus mada, you're from Media, l'shem malchus Yavan for Greece, or they wrote the date Labinyan Abayas to when the Beis Hamikdash was built, or l'churban Abayas when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Haya b'mizrach v'kasa b'marav. Let's say they wrote the wrong place. They said it was they wrote the east. Really, they were in the west. B'marav v'kasa b'mizrach. They're in the west. They wrote the east. So the problem is now that she gets remarried with the invalid get because the date and location were wrong. So Teitim Mizel Mizel v'choladracham elaba. She has a problem. She can't stay with the new husband because she was married still to the old one. The get was not valid. And she can't go back to the old one because she had she's forbidden to her first husband. She had this affair. She had this relations.
I can understand the issue about the date because there are so many dating systems that use. But what does this mean? She right east was really what does that mean? So she was Pablo. She was really
Probably, yeah, probably.
Well, there's still Aiden when the get was written.
Yeah.
Signed this get. So who cares about a typo? This is happening later in the future. She's obviously been divorced somewhere, someplace, at some time. Mamasa, what's it?
Yeah. So the get is the divorce. Now you need witnesses on the get. The question is which witnesses do you need? The ones in the get, they're the ones that watch the get, but the get is the divorce.
I get it, but she's divorced.
No, if there's no get, then she's not divorced.
I don't.
It's
No, I don't get that.
Here, to get married, he gives her a ring.
Get married. No, you're talking about after marriage.
To get married, he gives her a ring.
Right.
No.
Let's say that
He married
ring.
her with the ring. He didn't get married.
Her wife.
Get Who's on
Let's
first?
say the ring was not a shava pruta,
Yeah, it's a bubble gum, right?
but there were witnesses there.
And did he have any of the other chairs?
There was no. That's it. He gave her a ring. Turns out we looked at the ring. It was the piece from the cigar. You know the
Right.
the little
So he didn't have one of the three requirements.
right.
Seen those.
But he had witnesses. That's what I'm talking about the get.
Oh,
So he gave her a get, and there's witnesses. Turns out what was written in the get, it wasn't a valid, whatever was there, it wasn't valid. So now she has to separate from both husbands. Why? According to Rav Sheshes, she did her due diligence. She got a get. What do you expect from her? She's supposed to know the Rome and media, east and west. She who says she knows how to read? Well, she should have had the get read in front of a chacham. She should have taken it to check. Can you tell me what it says here? Can you make sure that it's good? You know, there's one more step of due diligence that's supposed to be done. She didn't do that.
Is that what's done nowadays when they do get to the reading?
Yeah, actually,
Just
the
like
way,
Ksuba?
well, the reading of the ksuba is not that significant. That's really just to separate the two parts of the chuppah, kedushin, and the suins. They just they could have put on a advertisement. But it's a time filler. Yeah. So, but the reading of the get is much more significant. They write the get, they read it over, the witnesses sign.
Witnesses can read the get.
The witnesses have to read the get before they sign.
Check the dates.
I don't think they read it again after the signatures. The husband takes the get and gives it to his wife. She's kind of the get. You know, she lifts it up, she puts it in her purse, she walks, you know, to make sure that a Kenyan, she shows ownership. They take it back and then they read it out loud. It's like the Besdin, they take it back, they read it out loud, like a public reading of the get to make sure.
But from her point of view, either her husband or shliach came and gave her a get, which she said, wouldn't she normally think, I've
Right.
done my due diligence?
Right. And here we're saying that she was supposed to do one more thing.
Yeah.
She's
But she
supposed to,
didn't have to be present to do one more thing. She didn't have to go back and follow.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not fair.
right. That's a good point.
Give him a trophy.
Where's my trophy? No, I'm just kidding.
So when the Basin reads it out loud, could they find the mistake in it?
We hope that there's no mistake at that point. Yeah, they have to do the whole thing over. Yeah. The checking of it is all done beforehand. That's the
She
edit.
didn't, the lady didn't hire the scholar.
Right.
Goes to the Beis Din, they read it and say, this is no good. It's got the wrong date on it. So then they say, she's still married to the guy.
So what we do today is that once the get has been given, they take it out of circulation. They don't let anyone look at that get. That's why you've probably never seen a get. I mean, like, no, it's like Subas, you had people,
Yeah.
you could see them and they're in books, but the gittin are not in books. You don't even see a picture of them. I mean, and you can see it in
So
encyclopedia.
where does the get go?
Besdin has it on file.
Three of them on the wall.
The Besdin has it on file, and they give the woman a document that says the get's been given.
Wow.
Well, they're concerned that someone may look at it and come up with the shaila, say, "Oh, I don't like the way that yud was written. There's an aleph that looks like maybe it's a ches and this. I don't know if this is good." They don't want that, so no one should ever see again. Okay, Amar Rav Simi Barashi Tashema. Another question on Rav Sheshes. That Hakoina says Yevimta, if someone marries the Yevama, a woman, husband passed away, so the brother of the husband marries her. Okay, good. Everything is good. The problem is she had there's a co-wife, rival. Venices, the rival wife, is free to marry anyone. And so she does. However, the one that married the Yevama turns out was not fully developed. It never reached maturity. It was an islandess. The first woman that did Yibam. Now that Yibam was nothing. The problem is that the second wife had already married someone else, relying on the Yibam, which turned out to be nothing. So Teitzi Mizeh Mizeh. What's the Teitzi Mizeh Mizeh?
The second one.
Yeah, but what's the Mizeh Mizeh?
This one and that.
It sounds like the islandess has to leave also.
Didn't they know she was an islandess before the Yibum?
I guess the islandess is not allowed to do Yibam. So they both have to separate. The islandess and the tzara that married someone else.
Why can't you say Zemiza is the second wife? Now.
The first husband passed away. So there's
there's
two
no
wives.
picture.
So yeah. So I'm asking, what's the Teitzi Mizeh Umizeh? Before there were two husbands. So, but here it must be the two wives have to separate. No, so the Yavam has to get rid of the islandess, and the tzara that got married to someone else was never allowed to marry that person because she's required. Oh no, Teitzi Mizeh Mizeh is she can't do Yibam with the
first guy who's the islandess.
With the first guy that married the islandess. That's what it means. She can't do Yibam. She has to do Chalitza. Okay, V'chol Drachim, and what else happens over here? I guess because it's considered like if she's a saita, she can't live with her husband. If let's say a woman that's a shemeres yavam, she's waiting to do yibam. Let's say she lives with someone. Does she become prohibited to the yavam? I don't think so. Right?
The first husband, the deceased husband.
No. Yeah, the deceased husband was married to an islandess.
So how does it make it? When she was minor, and later on,
Yeah, he's allowed to marry. You can marry an islandess. Which is
you can't do you.
right, you can't do yibam. Yeah, because we said you needed to upkeep the name of the deceased, and an islandess can't do that.
He's got a rival wife, so he should marry her.
Right. The yibam should have been done with the rival.
Right.
Okay. So
Islandess is.
she's not developed. Yeah, she's underdeveloped.
Rival wives of
Oh, boy.
rival
So,
wives of
my name and my heavenly mevad. What do you want from this rival wife? What was she supposed to do?
Yeah,
How is she supposed to know? So the answer is, she should have waited before she got married to someone else to see if that yibam was good, to see if she would. I mean, she was still the first wife over here, the islandess, wasn't old enough to check if she's an islandess. Now, the reason why is there had to be some sort of signs on her that she was possibly an islandess. Otherwise, what are you supposed to,
10 years or something.
Okay. Amar Abaya, Tashima. Abaya says, come and listen. Kol arayas shamru peiches she'esayim. Any arayas. Let's say Reuven and Shimon.
Excuse me, when they say come here.
That
What does
means
that
come
mean?
and listen to a proof that I have for one way or the other, and something that we were discussing earlier.
Right.
So, yeah, the Bavli says Tashima. Come and listen. Well, Reuven and Shimon. Reuven ends up marrying, let's say, Shimon's daughter. Okay, now Reuven has other wives. Now Reuven passes away. So Shimon obviously doesn't have to do Yibam to his daughter, but not only that, he doesn't have to do Yibam on the other wives either, right? First Mishnah in Yevamos. So what happened here? Kol arayas shamru peiches she'esayim Halchutzaris v'nisu v'nimtze elu eilenis teitzi mizeh mizeh v'chol drachim elu ba. So there's no yibum. There's no yibum on for any of them. So they all go and get married. Then it turns out that Shimon's daughter was actually an islandess. So her being eligible for yibum was never there. So therefore, it's only the other wives that are eligible for yibum. So that means that the close relative here does not exempt the other wives, right? It would be as if Shimon's daughter was divorced when Reuven passed away. It was right, as if she wasn't part of the marriage. If that's the case, then those other wives that got married were not allowed to get married.
They did.
Why? What's the issue? Name am I have Leila Mev when it says v'chol drachim means that all the punishments that it says in the Mishnah, our Mishnah for a woman that doesn't do the proper investigation. Why are we being so tough on them? My have Leila Mev. What do you want from them? They should have waited to see if she was an islandess. Amarava Tashma, Kasav Sefer, get leisha v'shever get leish v'shever leisha v'tav v'nasan get leisha v'shever leish v'nasnu zelazeh v'zelazeh alachasman harei get yetim mitachas yadish v'shever mitachas yadisha tetzim mizem v'chol derachim elu v'amai nim my have leila mevet. Okay, what happened over here is that the scribe was doing two documents. He was doing a get, and he also wrote a receipt of receiving the ksuba. Now, the get is supposed to go to the husband, which he then gives to his wife. The receipt for receiving the ksuba goes to the wife. When she receives the ksuba, she gives the receipt to the husband, and that way he has a receipt that he's paid it up. Okay, so he made a mistake, and he folds it up, puts it in an envelope. He gave the get to the wife, the cipher, and he gave the receipt to the husband. And then what happened was the husband gives her what he thinks is the get was really a receipt. And so when she gets the ksuba, the money, she gives him the get. And now after a little while, he opens it up. The guy has holding a get and she's holding a receipt. So, and she's already remarried.
But she has a receipt to show that she got a get.
No, she has a receipt to show that she's paid her ksuba to her husband, which doesn't exist. There's no such thing. And the husband's walking around with the get. He doesn't need the get. She's supposed to have the get.
It doesn't show in that receipt that she received the get as well.
No.
So the scribe should get fired.
Yeah, it's probably the secretary. So, my have Leila Mevad. What are you going to do over here? So the Gemara says, Leila Kriya Gita. She should have had the get read after it was given, which that's exactly what we do.
Right.
If you read it, it would have said like the wrong.
Your insurance for this stuff. Like, buy a house, you need insurance on the deed, title search, get search.
Company's called Armageddon.
Let's come up with this stuff.
No divorces.
Take back the trophy.
Amar Ravashi. Tashima. Shina Shmai. Ushma. Shem Irei v'Shem Ira. Teitzi Mizel Zev v'Chol Drachim Elav. Amai Neima. Mayav Leila Me'avad. By Leila Kriegita. Same story. They wrote the wrong name of his name was wrong. Her name was wrong. His city was wrong. Her city was wrong. Well, and she gets remarried. She's in trouble. So, but she gets all the fines of someone that didn't do proper investigation. So why? But why? What was she supposed to do? Well, she's supposed to have read the get or had the get read by a chacham. Let's say there was a signature missing on a get. Now, this is a very special get. This was a get that was a Kohen uses. It's called the get makusha. In order to make sure, you see, if a Kohen divorces his wife, he can't remarry her. Sometimes people come in, they're separated, this and that. They're not 100% sure that they want to give the get. So I say, well, you could give the get and get remarried if you want to get remarried. It's not like it's not like a final thing that you don't have a second chance. Yeah, you can still get remarried. But if it's a Cohen, you can't do that. It's over. There is no return policy. So in order to make sure that they check this carefully, they prolong the process of the get. And they have to fold it and tie it and sign on every fold and this and that. Maybe they like rethink it through this whole process. A lot of like red tape, So let's say one of those folds and signatures, they missed a signature.
There's tape around it.
Yeah.
Red
tape. So, and then she got married and it was a signature that was missing. So, and then she gets in trouble of all of these punishments. She doesn't get the ksuba and the thing and the that and everything. So, well, what was she supposed to do? The Gemara says, she should have had the get read. And she should have done.
Never married the guy. What? Then she never have these problems. Obviously, it wasn't.
Grandmother taught.
The husband gets the get and gives it to the wife. And the wife is, the document belongs to the wife. The get, yeah.
So who's she having? When and who is she supposed to have read it?
She's supposed to take the get, have it read by the best, and hand it back to the bed. Yeah,
Say, read it again.
yeah, read it. Make sure that this is good. Yeah,
Oh. So the basin doesn't read the get beforehand?
they read it before. And yeah, in this case, though,
I'm trying to understand what's
you see-
accomplished by her handing it back to the basin and say, please read this.
yeah, so,
What you read 10 minutes ago.
actually, I think the reading of the get is not specifically to make sure that it was the right document. The reading of the get that's done afterwards is to announce that she's divorced. It makes like now everyone knows she's divorced, and they read the get like she's now a free woman. But yeah, so the fact that we hold the get is not a halachic like a Gemara thing. It's just a practical. Yeah, really, the document belongs to the woman, the best, and just keeps it for her.
The get is effective upon delivery.
Right,
isn't it?
right,
And all
right.
this other stuff is just afterwards. So
right, right. She's probably receiving a get just from not in front of a best, and she's receiving it from her husband or shliach or something. She has to go check to make sure it's all done properly. Okay, Rav Papa Savala Mevaduvda. There was a case where, let's say, two witnesses came and said that she's allowed to get married. And Rav Papa said, okay, what was she supposed to do? She's supposed to do anything different? No, she's fine. Let her get married. Let her go back to her first husband. It was all a mistake. So, Amalei Rav Yeshua, Rav Papa, Vatani Kalani Masnais. Did you see all those brises? We looked at this whole page. We brought brises saying that even though, what do you expect from her? Nevertheless, she's still held accountable.
Right.
The Gemara says, Amar Lei, Rav Papa responded, V'lav sheninu, but we answered those brises. Those brises, each one had a problem. So he says back, Amar Lei, you want to rely on those answers? Upasak, if you read that. And he stopped relying on he stopped relying on those answers, and he stopped allowing the woman to go back to the first husband, saying that she should have been more careful. Yeah, that's the end of the story.
Wow.
Amar Rav Ashi, we don't rely on a rumor. Hi, Kala. What rumor are we talking about? Are we talking about that she's married already to someone else, and the rumor goes out that the husband's still alive? Amar Rav Ashi Chadazimna, we already heard from Rav Ashi. We don't rely on a rumor like that? Well, the Gemara says, I know Rav Ashi said it once, but it's okay if he says it again because Maudatema Hayal Vasil Beidina Vesharina Kikala the Kaminasuan Dami Vititzar Kamashmalan. I could have thought, look, she needed to go to Besdin to get a heter. So when she gets that heter, and then she gets married, and then the rumor comes out that the husband's still alive.
Right.
We said that a rumor after the marriage, we don't rely on that until we have actual evidence that the husband's alive. We don't just say, oh, a rumor, people are talking. If that's the case, why does Rav Ashi have to say we don't rely on a rumor if it's after the marriage? The answer is that because he already said it once. The answer is that over here, possibly the rumor was already before the marriage. The fact that she had to go to Besdin is already like the beginning of a rumor that maybe he's alive. Kamash Malan, that it's not. That the Besdin Paskin, everything is good.
Right.
There's no rumors.
Right.
Then the rumor comes later. We don't say that the rumor really started beforehand. We don't say that there was like already grounds for that rumor.
Why not you say the rumor was that she was told he was dead?
Yeah, she's told that he's dead.
Why
So she
put
gets
that
married.
rumor?
No. Now everyone in the street is talking. Did you hear? Shmerel is alive.
No, nothing was.
So Rav Ashi says you ignore that. Just because people are talking, you ignore that.
So,
The Rav Ashi already said that after she's remarried, you ignore it. Why does he have to say again that you ignore it? The answer is because I could have thought in this case, this is considered a rumor before she got married.
right.
And she's already married. Why is it a rumor before? Because there was already this whole deal, this was grounds for that. We suspected that anyway. She had to go to Besdin.
So the Basin like knocked off the rumors totally as if they'd never
Right.
happened.
That's the conclusion.
So today where there's no witnesses, I would guess the Basin uses a certificate of death. State to determine that somebody's dead.
Probably.
Cases like
Right.
we're talking about, where there's no body, no physical evidence of death.
Right.
Death, right?
I assume so.
Somebody your friends issued that. That doesn't make anything. If there's no witnesses, how do they issue a certificate of death? It's a political thing, right? People, my friends. they always
No,
get those.
it's asking an interesting question. Who knows? I mean, sometimes the person passes away in the hospital,
Okay.
and no one actually sees the body. No one sees the burial. How do they know really that the person really died? Like in COVID.
Right. A mass.
So who
death.
actually testifies that the person died?
Only the certificate. That's what she's saying.
It's an interesting question. Is that certificate enough?
Like in the case of the Twin Towers, the Basin did an investigation, found that there were some people, there's simply no evidence of no DNA. So what did they do? They went back to, they looked at records like, first they established that everybody who was in that floor at that point, talking about the bond from Cantor Fitzgerald that had a lot of Jews working in, everybody who was on that floor at that point died. So now they had to establish that somebody was on that floor at that time. So what they did was they found train ticket records. Now, this individual in the previous month, every time he'd been on a train at this point, he had gotten there up to the office at a certain time, and it was always 2 minutes before that the plane collided. So they established circumstantially, and based on that, the state
Wow.
issued a certificate of death.
Well,
That's how they established it. Because there were no records from September, but there were building records from August. They were able to establish that every time this Jew was on a train at a certain time, he walked in the building by this time, therefore.
wow.
They have to do stuff like that. And there was certificate of death.
What about when someone gets a false identity?
That's the problem.
These guys that disappear because they testified and then they were given identity somewhere else.
Yeah.
He died, right? There's a certificate of death, but he's got a nice family over there in
Slipped up.
Wow.
Nevada.
It's the problem.
With the Nazis that went to Argentina. I heard there's a rumor that this guy
Right.
got out of Germany.
They have to go Argentina, Russian paperclip. They came to the United States, all over the place. New identities, courtesy of U.S. government.
Okay.
You never heard
And
that?
this is LP Bezdin Teitze.
He's trying to get
If we
All the top scientists never to work for NASA.
For
US
Zoom
government
friends.
brought over.
First,
Werner
first
von
for
Braun.
Zoom friends. Let's get back to the
Werner
show.
von Braun.
Yeah, he was the top man. But he was given the
so
same name.
if she gets married, according to Bezdin's Psak, based on Bezdin's Psak, it said over here in Mishnah that because there was one witness, right? So then she has to separate, and she doesn't have to bring a carbon. She doesn't have to bring a carbon. Okay. Amar Zeiri Lesel Masnisin. Midatani Bei Midrasha. The Zeiri says we can't accept our Mishnah because we have a brisa that was taught in the Beis Medrash. Tani Bei Midrasha. Hayru Bezdin Sheshaka Chama. Let's say it was Shabbos. Bezdin looks outside. So sunset. Everyone can go do malacha. Then all of a sudden they see the sun shining.
Whoa.
Ein zu hira latos. That's not considered a hira that would exempt an individual from bringing a carbon. That's considered an absolute mistake, and there was no psak. It was the Bezdin paskin based on evidence that didn't exist, and therefore there's no psak. We don't. It's not considered that the Bezdin did something here. It's considered like nothing.
Yeah.
They have to bring karbanos.
Wow.
It's a mistake. Mistake. They bring karbanos.
Didn't you say if it was a mistake that affects the whole community, then the base didn't produce the carbon?
Yeah, but here it's not considered. It's not even considered a psak. If the Bezdin would have made a mistake in halacha, they learned something wrong. So that would have been a psak. And if it was really a mistake, they then re-examine the texts and the logic, and they come out. So we made a mistake. We thought so then that would be a Bezdin's fault. Bezdin would bring the carbon and not the people, if it would be the community. But over here, it's the evidence that was brought to them wasn't accurate, and so therefore there was no psak here.
But they weren't the Chakir Eden.
Right.
They didn't check out the sun.
Yeah,
Right.
he was a sage.
Sun is an
It's
X.
still on the base.
Right. It's just like the people made a mistake. Okay.
So what happened?
The people have to bring a carbon.
People.
Rav Nachman says no. Hayrahi. It is considered a psak. Rav Nachman says it is considered a psak, and the people are exempt from a carbon. It's the Bezdin's carbon if there would be a large, community that's violated. I'm Rav Nachman Teda Deirai. I'll prove it to you. You never believe one witness. Well, over here you do. My timer. Why do over here do you believe one witness? It must be because the Bezdin relies on one witness and makes a psak, and it's not that there's one witness that's telling us. It becomes a psak from the Bezdin, and if there's a mistake here, comes out the person was still alive, that's a psak from the Bezdin. It's not a one witness belief, because we never believe one witness. It has to be. It's just that the Bezdin made a ruling. Rava says no. Teda de Taso, I have a proof that it's a mistake. It's not a ruling from the Bezdin. The Elohim Bezdin bechelev bedam later. Let's say Bezdin says, you're allowed to eat this for fat that's really forbidden. You're allowed to eat this blood. But then they change their mind, say that it's prohibited. If they would go back and say no, it was very clear that they made a mistake. Now, for some reason, they just go back and say it's permissible. You can't rely on them. So now, by us, one witness comes that says that the husband passed away. Sharino, we allow the woman to get married. Asutre, two witnesses came that said he's still alive. Asarna, we say, she's forbidden to get married. when another witness comes, Sharina, would we allow her to get married? We already know that he's alive. In my time, why would this be an issue? Lamishum detosu, because it's very clear that it was a mistake.
Which one? The first, the two, or the one?
The first psak, when they said that she's allowed to get married because he's dead, we know that was wrong because two witnesses came.
Yeah.
So we're not going to just go back and say that it was a psak. Yeah, I'm not sure why he's going through this funny, like back and forth thing. What does he want to say? If
the witnesses, just follow the witnesses. Not a mistake. What's going on? Cheap way out. It's not. Please say the witnesses do better. The court is okay. They followed the evidence, but they were wrong.
But this based on
One guy came, got a picture.
doesn't based on do whatever it wants. After based on after some other things. They don't have basin doesn't have the authority to help with that.
yeah,
The Torah.
but even in Dinimaminus, they have to do mehechan dantano. They can't just if they can claim pshara if the people agree to pshara. But the people can say, where are you getting your psak from? They can't just say, well, we decided. They have to say, we're relying on this, Rambam or this, whatever. You mean to? No. See, it's unclear. It's unclear what the Gemara's shaila is really here. But what the issues are is that if Bezdin is presented with evidence that's not really the case, and they make a psak, is that considered a psak from Bezdin, or is that considered a mistake? And there was no psak here. That's what's happening. So if here we have a case, we have one witness shows up. Is Bezdin just telling us what the witness is saying? Well, look, here we have a witness. Rely on the Bezdin is pointing to the witness and saying, go ahead, rely on him. But it's not a psak from Bezdin. Or is the Bezdin saying, here's our psak, we have a witness. You don't even need to know about that witness. Here's our psak. From here forward, you're only looking at a psak from Bezdin. That's the issue over here. So if it's a psak from Bezdin, then she should really be exempt. But if it's Bezdin just pointing to the witness saying, well, what do we know? Rely on the witness. Go ahead. So then it's not a psak from Bezdin. It's just it's a witness, and it wasn't factual. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't accurate. Okay.
It wasn't like he said the name on us. There's no deal.
Didn't Rava say not to go by only one witness though?
I'm sorry.
Didn't Rava just?
Yeah. So Rava was saying that we're not going to rely. Yeah. That the witness doesn't mean anything here.
Right.
Right. Which means that it's considered just a mistake. Rabbi Eliezer also says that it's a mistake and not a psak. The Tanya Rabbi Eliezer, okay, if someone gets married because of one witness, so it says they have to analyze, dig deep into the mountain. The law should pierce the mountain, right?
That's like a Baptist.
So, what is that? And she has to bring a carbon. So if it's a mistake, that's why mishamachi carbon. A mistake, you bring a carbon for. Carbon. Why do you have to bring a carbon? The Gemara says, maybe Rabbi Eliezer just has a different view. That he says that if an individual acts on the ruling of a Bezdin, the individual has to bring a carbon. If the community acts on the on the ruling of the Bezdin, then the Bezdin brings the carbon. But if it's an individual, so who brings the carbon over there? So the individual brings the carbon. That would be Rebbe Lezer's view. So I don't have a proof that the fact that he's bringing a carbon is because it's not a psak from Bezdin. Maybe it is a psak from Bezdin, but in this case, the Yachid brings the carbon. Maybe that's his view. The Gemara says, "Imkein ma'yikav adin sahar." Then what does it mean that they have to examine it well if it's a psak from Bezdin? Yeah, how does that conclude over there? What does your Gemara say? If so, what need is there for the special mention of the rationale, let the law pierce the mountain? He should simply have said that she is liable to bring an offering. Rather, Rebbe Lezer evidently maintains that in general, an individual does not have to bring an offering for a sin he committed based on the ruling of the court. Here, however, she must bring a sin offering because there was an error with regard to the facts. So what did it mean, let the law pierce the mountain? The matter must be fully investigated. If it turns out that the ruling of the court is incorrect, it is nullified. Okay.
Ruling is nullified if they find out they made a mistake.
Yeah. The question is, what does that mean?
Who pays?
Does that mean that it's not a court ruling, or does it mean that it is a court ruling? We're saying that means it's not a court ruling. That's what.
Now it's not, but at the time,
Right.
it is.
When you find out that it wasn't accurate, it's not considered a court ruling. Okay. Hayru Bezdin li nase. Let's say the Bezdin paskin that she should get married, that she could get married rather. The husband passed away, and then instead of getting married, she marries someone or lives with someone that she wasn't allowed to. So my kilkala. Says she was kilkala. How did the Mishnah put this? It says in that case, halcha v'kilkala chayeves b'karban. She has to bring a carbon. It turns out that the Bezdin allowed her to get married. She went and married someone that she wasn't allowed to marry, regardless of if her husband was alive or not. Turned out that her husband was really alive. She claims, "What do you want from me?" The Bezdin said I was allowed to get married. Now, Bezdin said she's allowed to get married, but not to this guy. This one was never allowed. So she's using an excuse that she should be exempt from a carbon because she did something that the Bezdin never allowed her to.
Wow.
You follow this? So she has to bring a carbon. My kilkala, what did she do wrong? Rebbe Lozer Reimer Zinsa. She's Mizana. She lives with someone, whatever. She thinks her husband's dead, so she's a single woman. Rabbi Yechanan Amar Almana l'kain gadol grusha v'chlutz l'kain hedyet. She actually does a forbidden marriage. Well, two opinions. There's Rabbi Lozer and Rabbi Yechanan. There's teacher-student here, or friend. Man damer zinsa, according to Rabbi Lozer, that says that she was mizana. Kolshken almana l'kain gadol. For sure, that zinsa is a minor prohibition. And almana l'kain gadol is a biblical prohibition. Man damer almana l'kain gadol, that's a serious prohibition. Avol zinsa, lie. But by zinsa, maybe she can say, well, she's relying on the Bezdin. My timer, the Amra, what's the reason? She says, Atinu d'shavisim tnuya, look, you made me into a single woman. I can do what I want. Now, she can't really do what she wants because she's not allowed to, if she wants to have relations, she has to be married. But she's saying to that person,
Right.
But turns out she's actually married to someone else. So, but she's saying, but you told me I'm allowed to do whatever, I'm free. You told me I'm free. So, I took that into my own hands, and that's what I did. Tiny cover say to Rabbi Yechanan. You have a brisa that supports Rabbi Yechanan. Her Rabbi Yechanan nasiv alcha v'kilkala. Gain al manal l'kain gad l'grusha v'chalitza l'kain hedit chayvus b'karban al kol biyabiyah. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. It has to be Rabbi Eliezer. V'chachamay karban echad al kol. Well, The Chacham say she has to bring one carbon. Rabbi Eliezer says she has to bring a carbon for every relations. Whatever the case is, it's very clear what the case is, that it's not zinsa. It's a case of where it's clearly prohibited marriage according to the Torah. Umaydim Chacham Rabbi Eliezer probably. The Chacham agreed to Rabbi Eliezer, Shemnisas lachamish bnei Adam, shachayeves become kol echad v'echad ha'el gufim mechalakim. This machlek is about how many karbanos she brings. That according to the Chachamim, she only brings one carbon. The Chacham will agree that if she got married to several people, that she's going to bring a carbon for each one. It was only one marriage that she brings one carbon, but different people is going to be like different malachas, let's say on Shabbos, that she's going to bring a different carbon for each one. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Wow.
These were the students of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, right?
Rabbi Eliezer probably.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Atzlacha.
Thank you.
Good week. Good week.
You too.
I once told you guys about